Remember what it was like to be a kid? To explore and play. To roam free all day. In Jamestown, North Carolina, we get out of the grind and escape into the moment. People feel good here. Let loose here. Eat well here. Feel swell here. We go for a ride or an afternoon stroll. We cheer each other on. And go for the goal. Here, a treasured history meets the energy of a town on the rise. In a place with true heart and soul, and where we have our own special beat. Jamestown, North Carolina, where history and possibility meet.
The clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, Councilmember Glanville.
Here.
Councilmember Rayburn.
Here.
Mayor Montgomery.
Here.
Councilmember Burgess.
Here.
Councilmember Wolf.
Here.
The quorum is present.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to get Scout Troops 50, 68, 68, and 17 to lead us in the pledge. Please stand. Thank you. Please bow your heads for a moment of silence. Thank you. Council, do we have any items that we need to add, delete, or change on the agenda?
Yes, I'd like to request that we remove the proclamation declaring April as Parkinson's Awareness Month and April 11th as Parkinson's Awareness Day from the consent agenda and add it as the first item after the public comment period. And I'd also like to request to remove the presentation of the audit report summary fiscal year 2022-2023 from the agenda.
Second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you. And moving to the consent agenda, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with those changes?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda with changes.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Katie, do we have anyone signed up for public comment period?
Nobody signed up.
At this time, I'd like to ask Betsy Lerner to come to the podium for the proclamation. We have a proclamation declaring April the 11th as Parkinson's Day in Jamestown. Whereas Parkinson's is a chronic, progressive, neurological disease that is the second most common neurodegenerative disease in the United States, And whereas Parkinson's disease is estimated to affect approximately 1 million people in the United States, and the prevalence will rise to 1.2 million by 2030. And whereas 90,000 new people are diagnosed each year in the United States with Parkinson's disease, and whereas complications from Parkinson's disease is the 14th leading cause of death in the United States, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And whereas there are an estimated 30,000 people living with Parkinson's disease in the state of North Carolina. And whereas it is estimated that the economic burden of Parkinson's disease is at least $52 billion annually in the United States, including direct and indirect cost, treatment, and lost income to patients and family members. And whereas research suggests the cause of Parkinson's disease is the combination of genetic and environmental factors, but the exact cause and the progression of the disease is still unknown. And whereas there is no objective test for Parkinson's disease, and there is no cure or drug to slow or halt the progression of the disease. And whereas the symptoms of Parkinson's disease may vary from person to person and can include tremors, slowness of movement, rigidity, difficulty with balance, swallowing, chewing, speaking, cognitive impairment, dementia, mood disorders, and a variety of other non-motor skills. And whereas volunteers, researchers, caregivers, and medical professionals are working to improve the quality of life of persons living with Parkinson's disease and their families. And whereas increased research, education, and community support services are needed to find more effective treatments and to provide access to quality care to those living with the disease today, now therefore I, Lynn Montgomery, Mayor of the town of Jamestown, on behalf of the council and the citizens of Jamestown, do hereby proclaim April the 11th as Parkinson's Day in the town. We thank you for being here with us this evening. Thank you. Thank you both for being here this evening. Thank you.
Before we move on, I just want to say the Ragsdale YMCA has a Parkinson's Cycle program for anyone if you know a loved one. Mike, yeah, thank you. And I know Mike is a sponsor of it. And also there's the Hamel Kerr bike and also road race event coming up. So, yeah, which is also a fundraiser, correct, for Parkinson's. So that is first weekend of April? Yeah, first weekend of April.
Thank you.
Lots of Parkinson's things happening around town.
In April. Matthew, would you introduce Hank Henning?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. It is my pleasure to welcome Hank Henning to our council meeting this evening. Before Hank comes up, I'll let him do an introduction to you. He is our Community Relations Manager with Duke Energy. But as a member of the staff, I wanted to express a really heartfelt thanks to Mr. Henning, because whenever we have issues or questions about anything that has to do with Duke Energy, he is extremely responsive. I just wanted to take a moment to say that before he comes up, introduces himself, and then talks a little bit about what his role is as a liaison between Duke Energy and local government. But without further ado, Mr. Henning.
Madam Mayor, Council, my name is Hank Henning. I'm the District Manager for Government Community Relations for Duke Energy. I've been in this role for about 2 years now, and I will say I used to be a pretty familiar face, I think, at Town Hall here to just about everybody, but there's some new faces on the board, so I want to take an opportunity just to come and introduce myself and just let you know that I'm here as a resource for you and put a name with a face, because I'm sure that if you haven't already, you will get questions from constituents, and you can feel free to send them directly to me. Prior to this role, like I said, I've been in this role for about 2 years now. I served on the Guilford Porter County Commissioners for 8 years, and Jamestown was always kind of the hub of I felt, the area I served. So there's always a special place in my heart for this area. I live 5 minutes up the road, so I'm always nearby. So in my role, we are a regulated utility, as you know, and so there's a lot of responsibilities we have to deliver affordable, reliable, and clean energy, and we're doing a lot to try to transition our grid right now to make sure that we can be ready for the EV boom that might be around the corner, and renewables, battery storage, and so forth. So along with that, we're doing a lot of work. You may notice the orange line, rubber lines that are on our power lines along the roads. Well, that's to protect our workers as they're doing what's called reconductoring, which is really upsizing the lines so everything is consistent. I won't get too deep in the weeds, but that being said, there's going to be disruption to traffic. Every once in a while, there is going to be disruptions to your constituents, our customers, and we want to minimize that as much as we can. We do have a very proactive program. We have a separate division from myself even called public engagement. So when there are going to be customers that's more than a dozen, we will send out flyers and contact those people directly related to that work. Prior to that, people might see us in their yards walking through our right-of-ways, collecting information on the equipment that we might have. For that, we don't do notification because we're just in and out, and oftentimes we found going and knocking on someone's door can create just as much or more of a disruption than not, so we kind of leave that up to the discretion of our folks on that street. If they feel they need to, they can, but when it comes to actually performing the actual work, we do proactively communicate with the residents to make sure that they're aware that there will be work taking place. But really, I can go on and on about my role. I really just wanted to introduce myself and see if you all had any questions. I don't know if you do questions during public comment, but so feel free. I'll make sure Matt has a whole handful of my cards that has my cell phone on it, and always feel free to go through your manager, or you can just contact me directly, or don't hesitate to just give the resident my cell phone on the card and just tell them that, you asked them to call me, and I'll handle it from there, because your constituents are our customers, and we want to make sure that we're delivering as good a customer service as possible.
Do you have any questions, council?
Well, I was gonna say, of course, I've reached out to you when I've gotten some questions. Of course, y'all been doing lots of work in our area, which I'm always glad to see you guys working, because I think that means maybe less power outages down the road. But we had talked about, when we were doing the strategic plan, about communication from the town with contractors, and just wonder if there's any way, when you're going to be doing work in an area, extensive work, or for a long period of time, is there any way to let the town hall know just basically the scope of work, and we think we're going to be there for 60 days or what have you, of course, weather permitting, and maybe a contact number, so they could put it on the website or social media, and people would know who to call, not for the town to be receiving the questions, because we would not know the details. But it's frustrating. I've had someone say, well, all I had was a customer service number and I couldn't get through it. They didn't know what they were doing in that area. But people just want to know when they're in and around their house or walking in this yard. Of course, I go out and ask them if I see them in my yard.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. So our folks are always going to have on Duke Energy attire. We always encourage people to go out and ask them, what they're doing, who they are. They're required to give them their employee ID number, identify themselves. I have actually run across scams in this area where there was one that actually occurred in Jamestown. I won't get into all the details of it, but it was people presenting themselves as employees of ours that were not. So people can do that. We do our best to communicate. I can certainly work with Matt and let him know of upcoming grid improvements. There are times when we're identifying faults in the lines and stuff like that. So sometimes it's a little bit more art than science as far as communication for large projects. When for reliability reasons, if there's an issue, we want to address it right away. So that window is really short, but point noted as far as communication. I'll work with Matt on that.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, great point.
Relatedly, I had a question about, because you said you communicate when people are going to be working in the neighborhood and stuff. And look, I am the worst at checking my mail, so believe you me, I very well could have received notification. But I live in Martha's neighborhood, and we have had quite a bit of work happening. But I don't remember ever seeing notification from Duke Power. And I mean, for it seemed like months, we had people coming and marking and then putting flags in our yard, and then we had people digging up our yard, and they cut our internet twice, and our power's been out.
Right.
And it was out as recently as March 8th for about 6 hours, and we never received any alert like your power's going to be out, or, I mean, we're very fortunate that we have a generator, but if we had, if we didn't, then our refrigerator, things could go bad. I know another neighborhood, their power was out for like 15 hours. But I don't know, it seems that everyone I've talked to has received no notification of what the work being done is, when it's going to be done, when it's going to be finished, when to expect people around. We went and picked up all the flags thinking the work was done, and then someone came back and put all the flags back out because I guess the work wasn't done. So I was just curious of what the notification, and again, maybe I missed it because I am very, very bad at checking.
Well, there was one recently where I did look and we had sent out notifications. So, you know, when I get this, I always ask, send me the specific time frame, the specific streets and stuff, because it's hard for me to give you details right now off the cuff without knowing
Sure.
the facts of it. So if you could send me that, I'd be happy to look into it.
Okay.
Other questions? Thank you, Hank.
That's it. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have cards for you. I will say that his communication is excellent when it comes to inclement weather. A lot of the information that we share on our social media pages, like if there's a large event that's coming through, we'll share that information with us, and we do pass that along to our citizens as well. At this time, I'd like to introduce Jorge Ortega, who is the Animal Services Director with the Guilford County Animal Control Office, and he has brought a very special guest with him. I'm going to let him introduce himself and give us a little bit of information about the services that they provide to the town and to the community. Thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. On behalf of Destiny and myself, thank you for having us here. Destiny's available for adoption, 6 years old, hefty 86 pounds. So she's been with us for 4 days, so she just went on the adoption tour. So, all right, we're gonna see if we can make this happen. So I have prepared a brief presentation for you all just to give you an update on the direction Animal Services has been going for the last 6 years. I joined Guilford County back in 2018, and during that time, we have been shifting our priorities, still keeping public safety, public health in mind at the forefront, but also really figuring out what are the root causes for animals coming into or entering our shelter system. The last thing we want to do is definitely shelter pets that do not need to be sheltered. Destiny is an example of her owner being put in jail and a caretaker not being able to take care of her, like she needed to be cared for, so the caretaker ended up surrendering her. So if we probably would have intervened earlier, we probably could have helped that caretaker keep that pet and not have her enter into the shelter system. So this is what we're trying to focus on now. You sure? She's now been officially adopted. Yes.
She's yours now, Scott.
Is it you touch it, you buy it type thing? All right. So on the cover page, really, it talks about reimagining. And this is what we've been working for last couple of years, is really focusing on the root causes. It's really being out in the community, identifying the reasons for pets coming into the organization. The top reason for us is housing. People housing and the lack of affordable housing or just housing as a whole. And this is something that we as the county have been talking about, but now we as Animal Services are focusing into this world of trying to help folks who are struggling with housing issues on how they can keep their pets and not have to worry about their pets. So it's really reimagining what we're doing with Animal Services. On the second page, it talks about where Guilford County, based on the North Carolina Housing Coalition, ranks number 6 out of the 100 counties in evictions. The lower number, or the higher, number 1 being the worst and 100 being the best. We are number 6 within evictions. And that means that if any household has 1, 2, based on the American Veterinary Medical Association numbers, that means that these are pets that are risking an opportunity to entering the shelter system. So we're trying to identify where these challenges are or these opportunities are so we can keep pets out of the shelter system. We focus a lot on what the poverty challenges or economic challenges in our communities are. If you look at page 3, it's talking about the federal poverty level, and the map shows the regions with the highest poverty level compared to the lowest poverty level. And if you flip over to page 4, these two maps side by side, the map on the left is our calls for service within Guilford County, and the map on the right is the one from the North Carolina Housing Association, or Coalition, and they pretty much mirror each other. So we know that the root cause of a lot of these challenges of pets coming into our organization, or the reasons for our calls, are having to do with the same challenges people are facing just to have normal lives or just live daily lives. So again, the way we're looking at things now, we're not waiting for the call to come in for us to respond. We're actually working and getting into these communities where we know these challenges exist, trying to prevent these animals from being surrendered in the first place. On page 5, or on page 6, it basically talks that animal welfare is connected to a larger systemic challenges for people and pets. We know that pets, for some people, they're all, right? They're my best friend. They're the person who I talk to. This is the one I go and talk to at the end of my day. I tell them how bad my day was, how great my day was. They're the ones that keep me healthy. They're the ones that keep me sane. Healthy meaning I have to walk her at 6 o'clock in the morning. She definitely did not get that many walks. She needs more walks. But we know that there is this human-animal bond. There's this connection beside that I have to feed this dog or I have to provide shelter for this dog. This is my confidant. This is the individual that I come home to every night, and this is what keeps me healthy. And that is what we want to make sure that we continue to connect and keep that connection so we can keep our community healthy. So we have what they're called NPAC events, and they're mobile assistant pet clinics. And what we do with these mobile pet assistance clinics is we provide resources that are donated to us, from pet food to crates to beds to toys to leashes to collars. We get annual donations, probably valuing over $100,000 a year. We have taken over the old EMS building. When they moved out, we moved in. And so we get shipments in pallets of donated goods. And these donated goods don't come into the shelter to be used for shelter animals. They're actually used out in the community for folks that are in need. So not only are we providing free rabies vaccines, or are we providing free microchips so we can rehome those lost pets, we're also out there with social services. Effective November 1st of last year, we now have an eligibility caseworker from DSS assigned to animal services. So her role is when someone is at our facility doing a surrender, and we know there might be other issues besides, I don't want my dog anymore, there might be some underlying issues, this DSS case manager steps in and starts having conversations with the individuals that are above our pay grade, that understand what these challenges are, and we help keep that family unit together. So we're approaching things differently. It's reimagining how we are doing animal services. Yes, we're responding to the calls of animals running at large and dangerous and vicious and the neglected and the cruelly treated, but we also know that folks are struggling and having challenges in keeping their pets, and it could be various reasons. So I lost my job, or I'm being evicted, or it's a domestic violence situation. Now we have someone they can speak with, and that pet, instead of being a full surrender, now becomes an emergency hold while we help that person get hold and then return that pet to that individual. So again, it's really about community connections. It's a community-first focus approach. We want to focus on the community. We want to see what's happening in our neighborhoods, what's happening with our neighbors. We want to be the first resource, not the last resort. We want to be there first. We want folks to know. That's why the new facility is the Animal Resource Center, because we want to be a resource. We just don't want to be the dog pound, the dog catcher, the place where you go to drop your dog off when you don't want him anymore. We want to be the place where you go when you need help to keep your pet and more. During our mobile pet clinics, we have our DSS eligibility caseworkers with us, and we're talking about voter registration, we're talking about employment, we're talking about WIC, we're talking about all these things that are human-focused at an animal-focused event. And folks are pleasantly surprised that this is happening at an event. So not only are they getting a free rabies vaccine so they can keep their pet healthy, but they're also getting a lot of information so they can stay healthy or be able to support their family. Page 9, it focuses on the 4 pillars that we internally focus on to get animals into the system if they have to come in and out of the system quickly. They are pet support services. We want to, again, provide folks with the resources they need so those pets do not have to come into the shelter. If a pet is lost, we do everything we can. We have a volunteer group that is our pet detectives. They troll every social media site, Nextdoor, you name it, Paw Boost. They're on there. They do matches. If they see a dog come in or a cat come in, they're matching those and contacting those individuals. The supported self-rehoming, if someone has to surrender a pet, we provide them with resources, could be vaccines, a spay-neuter voucher, things like that, so they can rehome a pet, and they're rehoming a healthy pet on their own, and the pet doesn't have to come in. And then intake to placement. If we have to intake, that animal has to come into the system. We have a process to get that animal out as quickly as possible. Example with Destiny, she's been with us 4 days. So she served our stray hole period. She's healthy, she's happy. She hit the adoption floor today. Knowing what's going on here, she'll probably be adopted by the end of the day tomorrow, and she'll be in a new home. Hopefully someone that likes to do exercise and walk, but it'll end up being a couch. She's almost there. So on the prevention, on page 10, and the prevention and retention programs, again, this is talking about our rabies vaccine clinics. Last year, we did over 650 free rabies vaccines throughout the county. This is one to keep our community safe and healthy, but also it keeps dogs, primarily dogs, out of the shelter if they do happen to bite a human, bite someone else. We can do home quarantines, and this way it gives us a space to house those pets that have to be housed in the shelter. And then the donations, again, the donations are really meant there to, one, open doors, have conversations, but provide those resources where those pets can stay with their humans and do not have to enter the shelter system. Page 11 talks about our stats. In the year of calendar year 22, we saw 5,069 animals come in. The year 23, we saw 8,100 animals come in. It's an increase of 3,000. Again, the primary reason being housing. Not housing for the pet, but housing for the human, whether it's an eviction, lost my house, can't afford rent. I was forced to move from one place, and the other place that will take a pet is now asking for not only a pet deposit, but also pet rent. So the affordability on housing when you have a pet is a little challenging. And so that's the majority of our surrenders and the increase. We are predicting the same type of numbers coming in this year, another probably 8,000 to 9,000 animals. So the more we can do to be proactive in the community and prevent those intakes, that's what we're focusing on. But that chart gives you all the information of what we did in calendar year of 23. And if you have any questions, let me know. Be more than happy to talk about that. And then the last page is page 12, and that basically focuses on Jamestown and the calls for service that we had in Jamestown this is from fiscal year of July 1st, 22 to July 1st, 23. It's a total of 193 calls. And the calls are broken down to the type of calls that we responded to within Jamestown. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have, if you have any questions.
That's great information. And I had no idea y'all were doing all that.
It's pretty brief, but I wanted to
That's awesome, yeah.
share. Thank you.
But I have read some just really sad stories, especially of elderly people that can't afford to feed their pet, and they really are their family. They're home alone, that's all they have. So that's awesome to know that you're actually being proactive to try to keep the pet in the home. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we have partnered with the COC. This year, it was the first year we participated in the point in time count for human homelessness. And this year was the first time on that census survey that we asked, do you own a pet? And we provided all the volunteers. I actually led a team in High Point, and we provided all the volunteers with a cat packet that had cat food, dog treat, cat treats, just pet food, treats, and everything. So we had those packets with us. So if we ran into someone that had a pet, we gave that resource, and of course our contact information, so we were able to follow up with them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Now, I'm familiar, of course, you hear of a pet deposit, but you said pet rent. Are
Yeah.
there places that charge
Yeah,
extra.
that's what we're hearing.
Each month? I did not realize that, yeah.
Yeah.
Are there options for fostering or?
Yes, so we do have a robust volunteer program, and then we do have a robust foster program. And our foster program is very, very broad, meaning you can foster for an hour. You can come and take Destiny out to Home Depot for a walk or a walk in the park and then bring her back the hour. We call that Dog's Day Out. So it's kind of dogs going on a field trip. This counts as her Dog's Day Out trip. I've already taken a picture of her in the car with me. And, but we have weekend fosters, we have medical foster, we have, like specialty foster. If a dog has a fractured leg and we fix the leg, then we need a medical foster for 2 weeks while the cast or the leg heals. So yeah, we have tons of foster opportunities. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
What's the most exotic of the 32 other animals that you've gotten in?
Kinkajou,
Oh, okay.
yeah, it looks like a koala bear,
Oh,
Oh.
but that wants to kill you. And it draws you in on its cuteness, and then it just like snaps at you. Yeah, yeah,
My.
yeah. And it was dropped off at the gate in a crate with a note, "Can't take care of no more."
wow, wow.
Yeah, so the rarest since I've been here. in St. Louis.
Yeah. Kudos to your staff for managing that.
Yeah. We didn't manage. We just brought it in, draped it, and called wildlife.
Oh, okay.
There you go. Yeah.
Too funny. Well, I'm excited that Destiny has found her new home.
Yeah. She looks quite comfortable.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions, council?
Thank you so much for
Thank you for
sharing
being
that.
here, Lori.
Yeah, and if you do have any other questions or anything, Matt has my, bat number, so he'll be able to reach me and Katie as well. So if there's anything I can do for you all, please reach out. If anybody would love a tour of the facility, if we haven't been, be more than happy to give you all a tour as well.
Oh, okay.
And we'd like to invite you to National Night Out also.
Yeah, we've already discussed that. It's on the calendar.
Excellent.
All right. Well,
Thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Faith, here's Faith. I don't think she's leaving.
Oh, she loves you already.
To leave? She not wanting to leave? Oh, wow.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you are aware, our original plan was to present the audited financial statements during tonight's meeting. However, we have encountered delays due to several factors, most notably the ever-evolving landscape in governmental accounting, combined with the retirement of our former finance director and having new auditors this year for the first time in several years, contributed to the delay. We, auditor and myself, assure you that we are on track for the submission to the Local Government Commission, the LGC, before March 31st, state and federal deadline. As of today, we do have a final trial balance. Despite the delay, we can still proceed with budgeting as we have the necessary final fund balance figures. Our current focus is the completion and issuance of a high-quality annual comprehensive financial report. With this said, please approve the amended audit contract that is presented to you tonight.
Okay, we said the only change is the date.
Yes, ma'am.
Do I have a motion to
I
approve?
would make a motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Faith. And Marcy, moving on to new business, would you discuss the golf course for us?
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to propose a rate increase at the golf course. It has been 2 years since we have done an increase on the golf rates. And with the cost of goods and services continuing to go up, to maintain the golf course properly, we are proposing roughly a 10 to 15% increase in the golf rates, except for town residents. So the town residents rate, we are not proposing that goes up. We know that Jamestown Park is one of the best public courses in the area. We have shopped around and looked at other golf courses and what they're charging, and we have found that we are charging a low to mid-range price to play our course. We feel that this is an increase and is in the best interest of the town and the golf course going forward. Right now, we are pretty much at max capacity on rounds played and even have to turn people away on pretty days and on weekends. I believe that with this increase, we will not see a reduction in play, but this will help us to be able to keep Jamestown Park competitive and one of the best courses in the area.
Any questions?
Any questions or?
Well, of course, I trust you. Like I said, I've always said I'm not a golfer, so, but you said you have checked with other municipal golf courses, and so you feel like these increases are in line and you won't price yourself out of the market.
Right.
And then I wondered about, we want to increase junior and youth play. Will this increase, you think, keep that from having juniors or youth play?
No, I don't think so. You know, and we're going to continue to offer, you know, junior golf camps, clinics, and the junior summer pass over the summer when a lot of kids play when they're out of school.
Yeah.
And so we'll keep that rate will stay the same that we've had for the last few summers for kids to be able to do that.
Oh, okay, that's good.
And our residents will stay the same rate.
Resident rate will stay the same.
And that's great.
I definitely, appreciate that.
Yes.
And also, as far as juniors go, I was there Monday, my daughter is taking part of the First Tee program, and there were kids everywhere. High schoolers were there, I think.
Middle school.
Middle school, which middle school is?
It's Jamestown Middle.
Okay, and that one had not been there for a while, right?
Right.
So I credit you for bringing them back, so thank you for
Right,
that. So I think, our course is really doing a fantastic job, and Marcy in
Right.
particular, of bringing younger people
Yes.
either to for the first time or back to the course. So I think it's great. I really appreciate the thought. I know it took a lot of thought to go into this and the number of different levels and everything, and really having to think, okay, what's going to work for each, and especially keeping that resident rate the same is fantastic.
Right.
Any other questions for Marcy?
Well, I was looking, the numbers we had in our packet are a little bit different from the one that was at our place.
Right.
What's the
Yeah,
difference?
we
Oh,
had
that was
a typo in the one that was in your packet.
Oh, okay.
So the one that you got, the new one tonight is
correct.
accurate.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you have a motion, Council?
I move to approve the proposed rate changes at the Jamestown Park and Golf Course as presented.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Now, will that be effective April 1st?
April 1st.
Okay, so be effective April 1st. Okay.
Thank you, Marcy.
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Great job, thank you.
And Katie, you're up next.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. There is currently a vacancy on the Parks and Recreation Committee for a full-time member. Maria Ashburn and Dwayne Willis have both submitted applications for Council's consideration for appointment. They are currently serving as alternates on the committee. Ashburn was appointed in March 2023 and Willis was appointed in October 2023. Staff is requesting that Council appoint an applicant to serve as a full-time member on the Parks and Recreation Committee.
Any questions for Katie? Any discussions?
No, the only discussion point I had is I know that historically, if two candidates have comparable qualifications, we typically go with the one that had put in their application and has been serving the longest. So with that, my recommendation would be Maria, and I'm happy to make that motion if we're ready for that.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I then make a motion to appoint Maria Ashburn as the full-time member to the Parks and Recreation Committee.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
Thanks. Do we have some alternates already in place, or are we going to need to be? Okay. Thank you.
So there'll be vacancies for that, we can tell folks
Okay.
about.
Paul?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to request a public hearing date for the water shortage response plan. It needs to be updated once every 5 years, and a request that we have a public hearing on April 16th, 2024, at the regular meeting at 6 o'clock.
Have a motion?
Yeah, I would make a motion to set the public hearing for consideration of the adoption of the revised water shortage response plan for April 16th, regular council meeting here in the Civic Center at 6 p.m.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you, Paul. Matthew, do you have a manager's report for us?
Good evening again. Manager's report now is going to be a little longer than it has been in the past because I wanted to take an opportunity to continue on a monthly basis to update the council and the public on a number of the projects we have going on. We've talked about these a little bit in the past, but I wanted to keep this in front of you and the public. So if you'll bear with me. A couple of the ongoing projects, we do have grants that we have been awarded for the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund and the Accessibility for Parks grants. Work to replace a septic tank is our first priority out at the Jamestown Park, and that's going to begin hopefully this week or early next week. Patrons are going to be seeing town staff engaging in demolition shortly after that, and bids for equipment for playgrounds will be going out shortly. Main Street Waterline, this has been a project that's been on the books for just a little while. Paul Blanchard, our Public Service Director, is anticipating that a bid package will be going out to the public in April with a possible bid award at the May 16th council meeting. So we are working on getting that particular project up and going. The dam repairs at Jamestown Park Golf Course that were on hold number 13. I guess that's what, 4 now? Got to do that math in my head. Thank you, Marcy. That is complete. That was funded through the American Rescue Plan Act funding, and so that is done, and I believe we have received our reimbursement for that. Oakdale sidewalks, there's some final plans that have gone out to North Carolina Department of Transportation for comments. We anticipate that those will be done probably next week. And then right-of-way and easements are still being acquired. Jason Pegram, our Assistant Director of Public Services, is working on obtaining those. The Penny Road Waterline Project, we are looking to roll out a request for qualifications to find a qualified designer, design engineer. That should be advertised before the end of this month. Oakdale Cotton Mill aerial replacement, Paul is anticipating, again, an award at the May 16th council meeting. That is upcoming, so be on the lookout. There are a couple of crosswalks. We did talk about that this morning at the budget workshop. Jason Pegram is identifying some specific crosswalks for refurbishment and repainting before the end of this fiscal year. So he's looking at those. There are a number of crosswalks that will be impacted by the water line replacement. So instead of spending money on those right now, they're going to wait until that work is complete. When they go back and put fresh asphalt down, they will fix those. Again, American Rescue Plan Act, there was a couple of sidewalk projects, or actually we've broken them into 2 sidewalk projects. One is a number of small sidewalk enhancements, and then there's a larger sidewalk construction project. The smaller projects are nearing design completion, and we're going to be sending those out for bids as soon as possible. And Paul is anticipating a bid award for the East Main Street sidewalk, which is the larger one and stretches from Vickery Chapel Road out to Millis Road, to be awarded at the May 16th council meeting as well. It'll be a busy May. That particular project is out for bid at this time. Music in the Park is going to begin on Friday, May the 3rd with the Alec Ottaway Band. We have posted this year's lineup. That's available on our website and our Facebook site. If you will look at our Facebook site, that's where we're going to be updating our events information. So we'll be putting, as we finalize the vendors for each of these events, we'll be starting to put those arrangements on our events page. Litter sweep will take place on April the 20th from 9 to 11 a.m. We want crews to meet at the Jamestown Food Line parking lot, and we would ask that if you would, please call Elizabeth Greason at Town Hall. She will get you all signed up and fixed up to do that. We would appreciate anybody who's willing to come out and do that. That helps keep our community clean and green. Jamestown Park Golf Course is celebrating its 50th year, and there's going to be celebrations, some special events and clinics, and possibly some special pricing opportunities that are going to be announced on their social media site. I am directing you to that. That is, we often share that through our town social media platform as well, but their Facebook site is separate. We'd encourage you to go there. That's where Marcy and her staff are posting new information all the time on those clinics. And finally, the town would like to extend congratulations to Missy Simmons at the Pinecroft Sedgefield Fire Department for her 32 years of service and her upcoming retirement. I know that Pinecroft Sedgefield has enjoyed having her with them a long time, and it's going to be difficult to replace her, but they are working with somebody now to help with that. I did put some key dates in here, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt.
Do we have any committee reports, council? Anybody have any meetings?
Oh, of course I do.
I do as well. Mine's probably shorter than Pam's, so, but we can go in any order you want.
Pam?
Okay. I'll start with the planning board. Planning board met on March 11th regarding the two rezoning requests. Russ Walker chaired the meeting in the absence of Ed Stadford. We send well wishes to Ed if he is watching. Matt presented in absence of Anna Harvaluk, and Anna's back, right? Yeah, okay, that's a good thing. The first request is regarding the rezoning of the Equestrian Center located at 1903, 1905, 1915, Guilford College Road from single-family residential to conditional zoning and family residential. Matt presented that case with an overview of the land use, facts, and cases, being 99 units with additional conditions that listed for guiding principles. A representative was there and spoke on behalf of the applicant. The Civic Center was very full with residents, with their concerns and ideas and opinions, of course. I think that the planning board did an excellent job that evening with questions to the representative, the applicant. Wonderful. Also, I just wanted to make mention in my notes too, as a reminder, what Matt expressed, that this is a process. This is what Matt said, I'm just going to repeat it. That the recommendation will be forwarded with the planning board, starting with the planning board, making a recommendation, then recommendation will be forwarded to council, then with another public hearing in which everyone will be notified. Correct me if I'm wrong, okay? The council, at that point, council will have final say. Staff recommended a continuation of that hearing on April the 8th. And then the second case, 100 near Lennox Square. Do we call it 100 near Lennox, or is it just Lennox Square? It's Lennox Square, correct? Okay. Phase 2, Matthew also presented that with the conditions and showed an overview of the property along with land use facts, zoning history, and guiding principles. The proposed zoning from residential Main Street traditional to the conditional zoning, residential Main Street to traditional for a maximum number of units limited to 24 and all one-bedroom units and just 2 buildings. Like with the equestrian centered decisions were presented before the board. There were some discrepancies and concerns, of course, with a couple of the residents that were there. So the planning board did agree to have a continuation again as well on April the 8th. So this was a very big meeting, as we know, and I suggest anyone that did not, attend, please, go back and view that meeting on YouTube via Town of Jamestown. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Sarah?
Yeah, so I was able to attend a school board meeting in February because our meeting got changed, and since it's usually at the same time. At that school board meeting, unfortunately, I did not get a chance to meet our 2 school board representatives that represent schools within the Jamestown limits. The school board was in closed session before the meeting and then was in closed session after the meeting. So it made for it not possible at that time. But hopefully we will be able to connect. And at that meeting, we didn't really talk about anything that was particular to Jamestown concerned. It was mostly about student teachers and some changes that are going to be happening there that affect really the whole county. But I did meet with Dr. Trent Vernon, who is the principal of Jamestown Middle School. And he and I had a pretty good discussion about some ideas of how to engage students and their families. So he put me in contact with Pam I'm going to get her last name, I'm not going to pronounce it, Herndon. And you all may know her personally, or you may have heard of her husband, Brian, who was the Ragsdale High School football coach for quite a while. So she and I have been in contact, and some great ideas have come up. Hopefully, we're going to get some participation from the Science Club for the spring litter sweep. And then there was some ideas about maybe connecting with the JBA, because they do have a, it's like a career technology track there. And apparently in the past, they've had people who own small businesses in the town come in and speak with the students in that program. And then they had mentioned that previously, before COVID, there was a connection with the Rotary Club, and that did service projects and such. And so I'm going to reach out to Cliff at the Rotary Club and see if they might be interested in making that connection again. So that's what's happening right now. And eventually I will move on from JMS, but that was more fruitful than I realized it was going to be. So it took up a little more of my energies than I realized.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah.
That's great, that's great, make those connections.
Yeah.
Have any meetings? Did you have any meetings, Mark?
Yeah, well, the TAC meeting was canceled in February, and then our next meeting is next Tuesday, so. But, of course, they had a PART meeting, that I always say it's all regional, so it's not really, like you say, specific. But I did think they had an interesting fact. PART has these van pool buses that they rent, and often they take to businesses. It's also a recruiting tool for the businesses to have transportation for their employees. But they had ordered, and they used a 15-passenger van, and they had ordered 16 vans. I thought this was 14 Fords and 2 Chevrolets. And the orders were placed in September of 2023. And the Fords are expected to be delivered in June, and the Chevrolets in August or September. So they're a year out in getting their vehicles. So I thought it shows there's still supply issues and delays in getting equipment. You know, we experienced that in our last budget cycle. And then they do have a website. It's called ridethetriad.org. And if you want to use public transportation to walk or bike to a greenway, a trail, or a park anywhere across the Piedmont Triad, they've got a map showing those transit areas where the buses are close to the greenways and trails, so if you wanted to do that, which I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's it.
Do we have anyone signed up for public comment?
Nobody signed up.
Any other business to address, council? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you very much.